You're listening to episode 12 of the Nightingale podcast. This week's guest is going to knock your socks off with her empowerment and just her love for giving back to the future of the nursing profession. This week's guest is Lacey Magen, also known as the Empowered Nurse, and she is kicking butt when it comes to just being a girl boss and wanting to give back to the future of our awesome profession. And she's just a super sweet person, and you are all going to love this week's episode. Before we dive into this week's episode, I just have to ask you all to do me a big favor. If you're listening to the Nightingale podcast and you are loving these episodes and you just want to keep having some awesome content coming at you and featuring awesome nurses on the episodes, then go ahead and press pause or wait till you arrive at your destination if you're driving and leave a review on whatever platform you are listening on. These reviews allow us to get great guests like Lacey Magen and just to continue to promote the podcast. While you're listening, take a screenshot of you listening to the episode and post it on any social media platform that you would like, just so that we can share the love of the Nightingale podcast and get this podcast into all of your friends' hands. Hey friends, welcome to the Nightingale podcast, a podcast for nurses, future nurses, and, well, anyone interested in the nursing profession. I'm your host, Dakota Felkowski, RN, BSN, and DNP student. Join us each week as I interview nurses from all areas of the nursing profession to uncover nursing opportunities that you may have not known even existed. You can expect to be inspired and maybe even a little bit motivated. The goal of the Nightingale podcast is to encourage you to think outside of the box, step outside of that comfort zone of yours, and reach for a fulfilling and unique nursing journey. So let's dive in and check out this week's guest. You never know, they may just have your dream job. Hey Lacey, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I am so excited to be chatting with you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait to talk with your community a little bit more and just, open up this world of nursing for so many people.
Oh my gosh, you are such an inspiration. I just love how uplifting you are, and you are such a great person to have for the nursing profession. You're doing such amazing things. So thank you for all you're doing.
Oh my gosh. That was such a nice thing to hear from you. And really, I do appreciate that, because I feel like when I started posting on Instagram, which is how we kind of found each other, that was one of the things that I really wanted to focus on, was making sure that I was bringing some joy and happiness to those that are struggling with nursing and with their wellness in general. So it's really good to hear that that's actually coming true on the other end for people.
Oh, totally. You totally are. So I'd love to get started with you telling us just a little bit about yourself, how you got into nursing, where you've ended up with your nursing journey so far. We want to hear it all.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. So I actually started my nursing journey a little bit differently, and until recently, I thought it was a lot differently, but I realized that, like 50% of the population of nurses that I speak with actually did it this way too. I started my nursing journey through an ABSN program, so an accelerated second degree BSN program. And before I went into nursing, I was a teacher. I taught middle school in Newark, New Jersey, which is really an inner city area. It was pretty tough. And what I realized in that experience was that, number one, I really was passionate about helping people, but I wasn't passionate about teaching. And so I knew that I needed to do something different. And because my degree was in science already, it was a pretty easy transition into nursing. And I fell in love right away in my first semester. So from there, I went through a 15-month program, and I graduated, and I got hired as a cardiac night shift nurse at an amazing hospital in New Jersey. And now that's really where a lot of my time is spent, in the hospital, working with cardiac patients overnight and just learning about cardiac health in general. So that's a little bit about my nursing journey and how I got started. It wasn't completely straight and narrow. I did struggle through school. I did have two jobs. My fiance, or now husband, did have to work really hard to maintain some of the bills while I was in school. So just like many of the people that are listening to this, it wasn't easy for me. But now that I'm telling the story, it sounds like, oh my gosh, it was so simple. And a lot of people, I think, see that and they think that. But it wasn't, but I'm so happy for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make because, like, we only see a certain portion, especially too with you being an influencer on Instagram. You only see one portion, and sometimes we look at other people's journeys and we think, wow, they had it easy, or look at them now, they must have always been on this route. So it's really great to hear that you had kind of that different beginning. Like you said, you made a total life-changing decision to go back for nursing. I mean, that has to be really hard. So I love that you talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always super simple for people. I know a lot of people, they may miss a class in a semester, or they may fail out of a class in a semester, or they might not have the perfect GPA to get into school, and they let that hold them back. And that's one of the things that I really am working on my social media, is letting people know that, you know what, if you want something, you have to persevere through it, and you will get there. If you're not in nursing school this semester, that's okay. You're not meant to be there at this time, and keep trying for what your dreams and your goals are.
Yes, that's so good. It's so disheartening to see when people just feel like they're at a point in their lives where they can't try something new, or they're too far gone to like go back and try new things. And that's so not true. That at any point in your career, in your life, you can start over. You can do something new. You just have to want it.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to want it and persevere through it. When I was applying to nursing school, the school that I was actually going to, there was like a miscommunication between nursing cast and the admissions office. And I had been calling for literally 36 days. I called every single day, twice a day. Sometimes I even faked my voice, because the admissions office kept saying that my application didn't come through yet. And what I ended up finding out was that they lost my application. And so last minute, I had to beg them to look over my application, and they ended up doing it. And lo and behold, I got in. But if I hadn't done that, that wouldn't have been the case.
Right? I think perseverance, persistence is such a big thing to focus on. And a lot of us think, even to like
Absolutely.
going forward with job interviews and stuff, you have to stay on them. You have to be your own advocate.
Yes, absolutely.
So I really want to hear, how did you end up in the whole Instagram world, becoming an influencer? Like, what led you to that?
Such a great question. So I actually got started with the whole Instagram thing with health and fitness. So when I was in nursing school, I realized that there were some things that weren't lining up. I wasn't taking care of myself the way that I was being taught to take care of other people. I wasn't eating healthy. I had actually gained about 15 pounds. I was feeling really just down and out about myself mentally. And I took this huge leap of faith and started a brand new workout program, which I totally didn't believe in until I started doing it. And from there, I decided I had to share my results with people, because it was so amazing what I had experienced. Not only was I learning about health and nutrition and how to really, fit in healthy foods with my diet, or with my schedule, with my diet, with my schedule, and, making sure that what I was doing every single day lined up with what I was teaching my patients and talking to people about in nursing school. So after I started, working on my health and fitness, I really just kind of blasted it out to the world and started telling people on social media. And in my first month, I actually started working with 5 other nursing students on their health and fitness, and it really started to catch on. So honestly, my entire influencership on Instagram started there. It started with health and really inspiring nursing students and nurses to take control of their health in the same way that they would tell their patients to. So, sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. So, From there, it actually really transitioned so much because over the past 2 years, I've really been focused on people coming together and becoming empowered with their health and their fitness and their well-being and taking care of themselves first before pouring into other people. And just recently, I decided that I needed to do just a little bit more. So while I am still helping people with their health and fitness, mostly nurses and nursing students, I have now expanded a little bit and created something called the Empowered Nurse. And the whole premise for this was because over the past 2 years, I had a ton of nursing students and new grad nurses reaching out to me and asking me questions like, how did you get over testing anxiety? How did you get over that relationship with your clinical instructor and not seeing eye to eye, or different struggles with getting into your first hospital or interviewing. And these are all things that all nursing students and all nurses struggle with, but we don't really talk about. So I recently created a course called They Don't Tell You About How to Survive Nursing School, and it's really geared towards empowering nursing students to take control of their education. So we talk about all of the things that they don't really teach you before you go into nursing school, like how to manage your time so that you do have free time and your time is not managing you, and that you're not procrastinating. We talk about things like how to study in a way that's right for you, not everybody else in the classroom, because I think that's really important. And that's not something that my professor ever told me about. So things like that, not giving information to people and saying, run with this information and use this only, but really empowering people to find the tools that they need to be the most successful nursing students and nurses, because I really do believe that empowerment is such a key component of being successful as a nurse in general. So that's really where this all stemmed from. It started with health and fitness empowerment and now has transitioned and is also inclusive of empowerment while you're in school and transitioning into that nurse role.
I absolutely love this. I think this is an awesome idea because, for one, I think that there's a really big disconnect sometimes between nursing students and then nurses who are practicing. And it's so unfortunate because we have the opportunity as nurses to give back to those students, to not only to support them, but to offer advice. I mean, it's scary. We've all been there. And so I just love that you're creating an environment where they can ask questions, get help, and like you said, not only just for the future, but right now. What can they do right now to get through this? Like, nursing school is not easy.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that like we get out of nursing school and then we just like don't think about it anymore, right? Because it was a hard experience and we want to move on from it. But there's so many people that get through their first semester and say to themselves, I can't do this. Someone was really rude to me last semester, or somebody questioned my skills and my abilities, and now I can't do this anymore. And they quit this amazing profession that they may have been able to serve so, so beautifully. And so my goal with this is to show people and empower them to just be their best selves, to empower them to know that no matter what somebody else says to you or questions you about, you can still be solid in the fact that you can be a great nurse if you go in with positive intentions. And I think people aren't told that enough. People aren't empowered enough to be their best selves. And hopefully I can be that guiding light for nursing students and new nurses. And that's really my goal with the Empowered Nurse.
Yes, I absolutely love this. And this was one of my big goals too with the podcast, is that we cannot be losing nurses a couple years, or even just like you said, before they even start this profession. Obviously, they were meant to do it because they made that step. If you can make that step to apply to nursing school, you were made for this. If you are struggling to get into nursing school, keep at it. You were meant to do this. Not everyone wants to have the responsibilities that a nurse does. It is definitely not a career for everyone, but if you have that spark down deep inside you to do this, you will do it, and we have to support that. So just
Absolutely.
keeping in mind, and like you said, our journeys, nobody's journeys look the same, and just just being that support system, that you do not have to look like this nurse or that nurse. You can have your own individual journey, and that's awesome.
Right. And really letting people know that, hey, let's say you get to the floor or go into a clinical setting and you absolutely hate it. Well, newsflash, nursing has so many opportunities in it. That's why it's such a unique and amazing profession, because you can get your foot in the door with nursing and do anything that you want to do. You can help people and serve people in so many different ways. There's, community health, there's telehealth, there's hospital settings, there's outpatient settings. There's so many different places that you can serve people. So if that is your main goal, is to serve people, there's so many options for you. Some people tell me, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of blood. Well, you don't necessarily have to always be in a setting where there's a ton of blood. And I think not letting those little details hold you back is what can really help people to be super successful in serving others. And ultimately, every nurse that I've ever met, that's their goal.
Yep, I so agree. And I think too, it's so awesome, like what you're doing in the influencer world. And just that's one thing I've really found with the presence on Instagram in the nursing profession is these people all are nurses or future nurses, and they have taken their other passions and are expressing them in other ways outside of the hospital setting. So even if you have other things that you're interested in, you can use your nursing degree in so many different ways than just in the clinical setting.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that, again, such a beautiful part about nursing is that exact fact. So some people, I get people that say, oh my gosh, I thought this is what I wanted to do, and I'm realizing I don't want to do this. And that's okay. It's not the end of the road for you. You have so many other options.
Right. Yes. So take us through, what does your course look like? What do you go through during the course? Is it class sessions? Is it one-on-one? Is it kind of on your own? What does that look like?
Great question. So right now, my course is geared towards pre-nursing and nursing students. And yes, for those of you that are nurses or new grads, there will be future courses for you as well, but I'm starting here. And this current course is 6 weeks long. I'd say it is self-paced because every Monday there are anywhere from 2 to 5 new videos that will appear in the course framework online. And it is self-paced because you can choose when to watch it. The goal is for this not to be something that is extra work, but something that can really aid in helping you to work smarter and not harder towards your degree. So each week is based on a different topic. We go over things like time management, how to make sure that, again, you're managing your time, it's not managing you. We go over study strategy. So what type of studier are you? Are you visual? Are you auditory? How do you learn best? And determining that. And then we're going to dive even deeper the next week and talk about specific classes. Each week, there is those 3 to 5 videos with a couple PDFs, and we're going to be doing a weekly call. So the call is going to be group formatted, but you come with your questions, and I answer the questions based on the topics that week. So the first week we are working on time management. So after you watch the videos, after you go through the PDF, we're going to have that weekly call. You get a little bit of FaceTime with me for an hour, and I get to answer your questions, talk to you about your time management and what it is that you need the most help with that topic. We go over things like stress management and clinical relationships. So relationships that nobody really told you about, you had to learn about, like having a relationship with a doctor, having a relationship with the nurses that you're going to be working with on the floor. Because one of the things that I think a lot of students forget is that when they're walking into a hospital setting, those are all networking opportunities to show their skill, to learn, to hone their skill, and to potentially get a job. So that's one of the things that I think is really important to talk about in this course. So all of the videos are pretty short, anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, and go over information that is super helpful on that topic. And then we talk about it each week in our group call.
That's amazing. I think this is an awesome idea, and it's so great that you're offering this, because this is the fun part about nursing. Like, this is the fun part about diving into any new journey, is this isn't going to feel like work to you. It's not going to feel like it's another course that you have to take. This is fun. This is the exciting thing. This is setting you up to make this transition, to get through it. So I love just how you've outlined this course, and it just sounds so exciting and just a great way to give back.
Thanks. And that's really, honestly, all of the topics that I came up with, it was because over the past year, I have literally been auditing the questions that I have been getting in my inbox from nursing students, from brand new grads that are looking for jobs, and from new nurses. And for nursing students specifically, these were the topics that they wanted and needed help with. Another cool thing about this course, because I've gotten this question a ton, so if you're a nursing student listening to this, the course is open to you forever. So once you get registered and once you get started, every semester I'm going to be adding new things to it, as obviously the world of nursing changes. I will be adding new things to it, and you will have access to it forever. So if you're a pre-nursing student and you're like, wow, this is great, but some of these things are really geared towards nursing school, that's totally fine, because when you do get in next semester or in the fall, you're still going to have access to these resources. And they do apply to courses that you're in currently as well. So I'm just really, really, really excited for the people that are already registered, and for the people that are getting started with this, and all of their excitement in becoming a nurse and being the best nurse they can be.
That's perfect. That is so good. Friends, starting a new position is scary. It's frightening, it's overwhelming, it's exciting, it's all of the things. I know, I've started many new positions in my time as an RN. But really, it doesn't have to be as difficult as we try to make it. Through these experiences, I have gathered 5 tips to starting a new position and making that transition as smooth as possible. I have created a free guide for you as my listeners to make this transition as seamless as possible and allow you to really excel in your new position. So if you recently started a new position, you are going to start a new job, or you know someone who's going to start a new position. I mean, come on, you have to fall into one of those 3 categories. Then head on over to thenightingalepodcast.com to sign up to receive your 100% free copy of the 5 tips PDF. I'm here to support you through all your new ventures in your careers, and I believe these 5 tips are going to do just that. So head on over to thenightingalepodcast.com after this episode and download your free guide. I mean, come on, what do you have to lose? I want to kind of switch gears for a second here and talk about how are you personally managing being a nurse, working full-time on the floor, and then kind of pursuing your goals and just kind of having your side hustle that's really kind of taking off. Do you have any advice or any tips for anybody who is looking to dive into something else outside of their job and they're trying to manage it all?
Yeah, absolutely. So tons of tips. First and foremost, take care of yourself, because if you are not taking care of yourself every single day, meaning whatever it is, it could be taking time to do yoga or meditate or work out or spend time with a loved one. If you're not taking that time every single day to pour into yourself, it gets really hard to manage all of the things. And I'm not going to lie, there's some days where I'm not so good at this. But the better I get at it, the better I get at managing my time with both nursing and the business. So every single week and every day, I sit down and I write out what my plans are and what my goals are for the day. I usually choose about 2 things. And I tackle those 2 things every day, and I just kind of keep working through it. Especially with a side hustle, you never feel like you're done, and because you never really are, and that's okay. So it's kind of the beauty in it. And make sure that if you are going to pick up a side hustle, maybe it's starting a blog or a vlog or a podcast, make sure that you are really passionate about it and you love it, because that will drive you even on those days where you're like, man, I'm really tired after my shift. You know, when you have that passion for what it is you're doing outside of your shift, you're really going to love it. And it's not going to matter as much. It's not going to feel like work when you are doing it.
Oh, that's so good. I recently just heard something so similar to that on a podcast. They said, if you can look ahead in a year and picture how this business, how whatever side hustle you're pursuing, if you can look ahead in a year and picture what that looks like, that is your drive, that's your motivation to keep going. If you really can't picture that, maybe you need to think about it a little bit longer before diving in and just making sure it's worth it to you and it's something that you love, a big passion that you can see yourself doing for a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really do believe you have to have passion behind what you're doing. And a lot of times people pick up a side hustle that's related to nursing. And for me, that makes it a whole lot easier because they really coincide. They go hand in hand. So I'm talking about the same things that I talk about, when I'm on the unit. And that's really helpful.
Yeah. And I love too how you had said that when you kind of got started with pursuing this started out as something totally different. You were starting out more just in the personal health and just getting through and working on your personal development and stuff like that, and more in the fitness realm. And it's totally evolved. So I think that's a good example of be open to anything that comes at you. If you want to
Yeah.
try something, it might totally evolve into something else and give you a real insight into what you really want to pursue.
Yes, for sure. I think that's a key point is follow your heart. Follow what makes you feel really, really great. So if you start out doing one thing, but you end up doing something totally different, hey, if you never started out doing that one thing, you would have never gotten to the point that you're at now. And that's one of the things that I'm learning. I didn't expect to create this course, but it came about through starting my health and fitness journey online. So it's really beautiful to watch everything evolve and to really see where life takes you. So just enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey.
Yes, and I think you're a great example too. If you have something to share with other people, if you have this passion to just influence others and to just offer your advice, do it. Don't feel like you don't have anything to add or anything to say because someone out there needs to hear what you're trying to say. So if it's for one person, it's for 10 people, if it's for 2,000 people, get it out there because someone needs to hear it.
Yes, I completely agree with that. It doesn't matter who you are or how experienced you are, there is still somebody a couple steps behind you that needs you to reach back and help them.
Yes, yeah. So I want to hear because you have just made so many strides in your nursing journey so far. Have you received any big advice or learned any important lessons to kind of get you where you are today?
So much that it's hard to choose a particular one. um, but I would say for those of you that are listening to this now, to really enjoy and embrace the journey that you're on and never take it for granted. So really every single day sitting down and thinking about what it is that you're grateful for, that has really helped keep me in a line with what it is that I'm doing every day. So we get so caught up in the hustle and the bustle of things, but sitting back and thinking, why am I grateful for today and what I'm doing today? And remembering that always, it really keeps you in a humble space so that you never, number one, when you do start to grow and get really big, you never, lose your vision. And number two, when you do have really hard days, you can remember where you came from and where you're going. So I think to remain really grateful, no matter whether you're in school and you didn't do as well on a test as you wanted to, or maybe you're a new grad and you're struggling with certain skills, or maybe you're neither one of those things and you're on a health and fitness journey and you feel like you're just not doing as well as you wanted to with that. Think now about how grateful you are for whatever other things you have going on in your life and how far you've actually come. That's something that has really, really helped me to remain grounded in where I'm going.
I love that. I think it's so good too that you said like it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're pursuing something, if you're where you are and you're like content where you are right now. Even for me, like going into my shift at the hospital, I try every single morning to start thinking of things that I'm grateful for in that moment. So I'm grateful for this sunrise that I saw on my way to work. Like nobody's that thrilled to be driving to work at 6 in the morning, but look at that awesome sunrise that I just saw. I'm grateful for getting a close parking spot. I'm grateful for my health today. I mean, it can seem like it is so daunting and you kind of forget what your patients are going through. And so just little things, being grateful for those small things, because you're taking care of people all day that are very vulnerable and are in situations that aren't great. So we need to reflect back and just be grateful so that we can offer them the care that they need in that moment.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think remembering when you walk into your shift that you're there to serve your patients and not for any other reason. Like, you're not there, to do much of anything else. You're there to serve your patients, and that has really helped when I have hard shifts as well.
Right. And I think too, I just love if you are being fulfilled outside of work, like you're taking this time for helping yourself and self love, self care, and gratitude, you are able to show up better as a better nurse for your patients,
Yes.
as a better student. You can't show up for anyone else before you show up for yourself. So start there. And I think that is so awesome that is really a big focus of you and what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. You can't show up for other people if you're not showing up for yourself. You said that beautifully.
Yeah. I want to kind of hear what you have in store for the future. What are your big goals down the road? So much of this podcast is about just we're lifetime learners in the nursing and the healthcare profession. And we always just need to have goals on the horizon. So what are your goals? What's the vision for the empowered nurse?
So the vision right now is to create courses for nursing students, and then transition that to also include new grads, so that period between graduation, taking the NCLEX, and starting a job. And then, so we'll be talking about things like interview, NCLEX prep, and then to create a course for novice nurses as well. So my goal for the next 6 months to a year from now is to have all of those things kind of working in place. In addition to that, so outside of my nursing realm, outside of the floor and the unit that I'm working on, I envision myself being there for quite some time. But outside of that, I'm also really inspired to speak at different conferences and schools. So that's something that I'm working on right now. I'm actually going to be speaking at Rutgers University soon. And I'm really, really just so grateful and inspired by all of you that have reached out to me. So I'm just so happy that you guys have given me a platform in order to speak and hopefully help empower other people and other nurses to do amazing things.
Yeah, and I think that is such a good thing for people to realize about you in the influencing world, is that like your main goal is to just help other people. Sometimes we forget, especially in the Instagram world, it looks like all just pretty pictures, and there is a huge movement behind this. And I think that is just so amazing about the nursing profession, is that we have just really absorbed this space as a way to influence people and inspire others in our field.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that Instagram has offered that platform for us to do that. And it's so cool to see so many other nurses and nursing students just blowing up on Instagram with their positivity and their love. And it's really amazing.
I agree. And I think too, it's like you said earlier, where you never know those connections that you make in the hospital setting, on your first day of work, in your orientation, in your classes with your teachers and with the fellow students. Those connections you make all along the way are really going to have a big impact in your future. And you never know when you're going to need to use those connections. And that goes for the Instagram world as well. It's amazing how many great nurses and future nurses that have been inspired and have inspired me on the Instagram platform. So it's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
So I've decided to do something a little fun and out there. I want to hear. So the Nightingale podcast came about. I came up with this idea for the Nightingale podcast, and the name obviously came from Florence Nightingale, first and foremost. And I realized after picking the name that I had a nightingale or a nightingale bird tattoo on my back. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to hear from our guest if you have any tattoos, and if so, what are they? If you do not, what would you get if you could get a tattoo?
You are too funny. I love that. So I actually don't have any tattoos, and I've been like way too terrified to get one, which is kind of silly. But there's actually 2 tattoos that I've wanted for like a very, very long time. The first one is the Deathly Hallows from Harry Potter. I'm such a nerd. But if you follow me, you know I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. And the reason why I would get that is because when I was growing up, I had a really hard time comprehending anything when I read, and it really put me back in school. And as soon as I got Harry Potter in my hands, that was it. Like, I was able to comprehend things. I was able to relate it to Harry Potter, and I fell in love. So that would be my first one. My second one would be the phases of the moon, because I think it really represents the woman very well, and that's something that I love learning about. And the phases of the moon are just, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 things.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so fun. And I think that is one thing that I just love about this question, is because everyone's tattoos are different. Everyone has different ideas about what they would get as a tattoo. And that's kind of how we are as nurses and within our nursing journeys, is every single one is unique. So I just love that. Those are awesome ideas. Maybe someday you'll get them,
Thank
right?
Yes, maybe I will. I'll send you a picture.
Right. So I want you to tell our listeners how they can keep up with you, where they can find you on Instagram or connect with you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm at Lacey Magen. It's LACEYMAGEN. And that is primarily where I hang out, but you can also find me at theempowerednurse.org. That's my website and my blog. Course information you can find there as well on both Instagram and on my website. You can also email me anytime at theempowerednurses@gmail.com. So it's theempowerednurse, but with an S, @gmail.com. And I am always open to have conversations and hear your guys' stories. So feel free to reach out.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I cannot wait to see just the success that this course has for all your students. It's going to be really fun, and it's a great, great segment to kind of push them into the nursing profession and really just welcome everyone. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. You are such an inspiration.
Thank you so much for having me, Dakota. I hope you have such an amazing day and week and nursing career. And again, just thank you for having me here.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Nightingale Podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, make sure you subscribe so that you are getting weekly notifications when the new episode comes out. And while you are there, I would really appreciate you leaving a review, and maybe your review will be featured on an upcoming podcast. You can check out all episodes at thenightingalepodcast.com or on Facebook at The Nightingale Podcast.